Welcome to the Elliott Confidential podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, and I'm here with Aren Elliott.
It's your boy.
How are you doing, Aren?
I'm doing as your boy does. Very good.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. We are in Barbados.
Yes.
Barbados.
Barbados.
Which is, in the Caribbean, as you probably know. And it is a very populous island compared to some of the other islands that we've been to. It's kind of like the main island. And a lot of people come here. Many British tourists. Quite a few Americans. What do you think of Barbados?
Well, there's still a lot to see, so I'm not sure. I haven't made my mind up yet.
Yeah, we are here for a few more days, but we've already done a lot. We are right now in a place that I never expected to be in.
Yeah.
It's a place called Villa Casablanca.
And it's a villa.
It is a huge villa on the Sandy Lane Estates. And because I'm doing a piece on sustainability, I was invited to stay here for a couple of days, and it's just amazing. I mean, to call it a vacation rental would be a vast understatement. It is a huge house used for big family gatherings or corporate meetings, and it has its own staff. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's just so much in this particular villa. It's really too much for two people.
Yeah, it's, we're here in the off season, and they really wanted us to see it because they have some green energy and recycling things going on. So looking forward to writing about that. But it's beautiful. And in the meantime, I'll post some photos too of the place. It's quite stunning. It's on a golf course. It's near the ocean. And, the ocean in Barbados is so beautiful. It's got this, very blue water. And we'll talk about the diving some more later. Mm-hmm. But first, though, because we're going to be talking about diving, I wanted to do our question of the week, which is, have you learned anything new on your last trip? Tell me about the latest thing that you've learned, whether it's doing native art or indigenous art somewhere, or learning how to scuba dive or rappel down a mountain or something like that. And Aren, other than the diving, which we will discuss, what's the latest thing that you've learned?
Well, man, it's so interesting because every place you go, you sort of, it's not just that you learn certain things from the culture or from the way that things are done or just because there's something new there. But also I think that traveling, you have to adapt a lot to new circumstances. And I think that, learning to live in hotels is one of those parts. I think the last thing that I learned, well, it's not very exciting, but I learned that if you have a water kettle, any hot water heater, what you can do is essentially create a microwave if you have a plastic Tupperware container by essentially pouring hot water over it in a sink.
Yeah.
And I've been using that for my oatmeal because sometimes, putting in scalding hot water is not enough to actually cook the oats.
This is like a DIY life hack for people who travel frequently.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? We have to talk about our last day in Grenada when we went and met with our Rastafarian friend Atibo, because we learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
He has a place. It's an organic farm. To call it a farm might be a little bit too much because it's more like trees. He's got groves. He grows herbs, things like that.
It's his personal garden of Eden.
That's right. On the eastern part of the island, which is very rural, and he is a Rastafarian. Mm-hmm. Now, when you think of a Rastafarian, what comes to mind?
Well, you think of Rastafari ganja.
Yes.
The marijuana.
You think of smoking the ganja, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. Rastafarians believe in self-sufficiency, living off the land. They believe in better living through herbs. And when I say herbs, I see you squinting, Aren. I don't mean the herb, the international herb. I mean they have all these herbs. Mm-hmm. So he showed us he showed us his garden. He harvested some, I'm having a hard time saying this without laughing. He harvested some herbs and shared them with us. And they were not ganja.
Yes.
They were not ganja. They were mint and sage and
Had a lot of nutmeg too because he's
Yes,
in
totally.
Grenada.
Yes,
And then
nutmeg.
also, there are some fruits that we just had not really ever seen. There was one, I don't even remember the name of it, is some sort of sweet apple, but it wasn't an
yeah,
apple. It definitely wasn't even related to apples. And it tasted like one of those sugar. It tasted like you're
Yeah, it
just
was a
biting
sugar
into
apple.
sugar.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
sugarcane, we sucked on some sugarcane too. So what did you learn though? Because I think I learned a lot from Matibo. He is a really great guy.
Well, I think that the thing that you learn always whenever you go to see someone's personal Garden of Eden is essentially that, having a diversity of fruits and vegetables surrounding you is a great thing.
Yes.
And if I were to ever have, a large plot of land, I would definitely I would plant whatever I could because I just think that it's so worth it. We were able to try cocoa, like just fresh cocoa.
And it's good.
It really is.
You just don't want to bite all the way in. You want to just kind of suck the outside.
Exactly.
That's very sweet.
And then also growing all of these herbs like, mint and oregano and basil and various types of basil too. I mean, it's amazing. And then also the other thing is that these people make their own cocoa balls. And so as we were talking about
for the cocoa tea, yeah.
Yeah, so in the
good.
last podcast we were talking about cocoa tea.
Yeah.
They make their own cocoa and then you essentially boil their own cocoa tea.
Yeah.
It's
If
really
you
great.
go to Grenada, you have to go visit the Rastafarian farm. This guy is really incredible and you'll learn a lot. I learned that Rastafarians like him, they wake up in the morning and they get a cup of herbs. Mm-hmm. Not what you're thinking. They just put together a little bit of this, a little bit of that, put it into a cup, maybe make some tea out of it. And it's better living. It's communing with nature. And so I think I have much better understanding of what Rastafarianism is. And I really love the lifestyle because it's you're more in tune with nature. You're not eating processed foods and fried foods. You're eating things that are growing on the trees and in the ground.
It's kind of like Amish people, except that they talk with outsiders and they use cell phones.
Yeah. He responds to emails, which is great. Yeah. He's a really nice guy. Anyway, so we go from there to Barbados. Big time culture shock because you're going from small island to, this is really like the big city kind of.
Yeah.
And so our first stop was an all-inclusive property called O2.
Yeah.
O2 is right on the beach. And we spoke with their sales director who shared a really fascinating story that I'm going to put into my article about the turtles.
Well, yeah. And not to spoil too much, but, the pandemic was actually really good for the environment.
Yep.
And so a lot of properties on all of these islands in the Caribbean and elsewhere have dealt with an influx of nature after all the people left.
And so she said that the turtles started to come back and they wanted to keep the turtles. So they found a way of making sure that they were installing turtle-friendly lights on the beach. And I asked her what a turtle-friendly light is. Apparently, if you have a red or a green light, the turtles are not going to be as attracted to it because they think it's the moon, and so they go toward it. And then they kind of, it's not good for them.
Yeah, I think the only part that, the hotels aren't so happy about is during the pandemic, the nature didn't necessarily pay the room rates.
No.
So they moved in, but they didn't pay.
Yeah, I think that if they had their choice between having nature back or having the guests back, they would choose the guests. And that really is one of the major conflicts with sustainability, is every hotel has put out a press release on sustainability and said, we have the best sustainability program. But there's an inherent conflict. Like, if you really want to be sustainable, you take a wrecking ball to your hotel and you plant trees. But,
absolutely.
But that's not possible because you want to have a hotel too, and you want to be able to make money. So where does making money, where does that end and where does sustainability begin? That really is the big question. And also, how much do guests care?
Yeah.
I will have the answer to that at the end of my series on sustainability, which is happening at the end of this month, if I survive.
And that really brings us to today, where we find ourselves at the Casablanca Villa. And today we also decided to tour the port.
We did. The port of Barbados, which is now is not so busy. But a couple of weeks ago, they were having 5-6 cruise ships a day coming through there. And you know what's so remarkable is that that port was actually built as a cargo port. They were moving molasses and sugar cane, well, it's really sugar, to boats and sending it off. And then they repurposed it as a cruise terminal. And now you have all these cruise ships coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that is very interesting is the whole molasses thing. There's still molasses there.
Yeah,
it's just now they're importing
They're
molasses.
importing it, yeah.
Because really they need all that molasses to make rum.
Yeah, rum's a big thing here. But you know what the other thing is that if you look carefully, and most people don't realize this when they're at Barbados, is you look up and you realize that you're in the old cargo, like the building that housed all the cargo. It's like the cargo terminal.
Yeah.
And that's now been turned into a mall, a little mini mall where you can go and buy popcorn and duty free and things like that.
Yeah.
Your overall impressions of Barbados are, if I'm correct, it's busier, but still very beautiful.
Well, I think that Barbados has a thing for beaches. It's not the same as Grenada, but I think, or any of the other ABC islands, they've got pretty nice beaches too, but I think the beaches here, there's the sand, I don't know what it is with the sand, but they have these sandbars that really color the water a certain way, and they have really good sunsets. I took a photo of the sunset just a couple of days ago, and it was really unbelievable. I don't think that I would have been able to get a photo that.
I've never seen sunsets like that.
Yeah, especially because the sand, it's not just that the water is a very light blue, but it's that the sand, it's kind of like when you're skiing on an overcast day, is because all of the colors are so similar to each other, it sort of feels almost flat. And that flat, it's not a bad thing actually. It's not like when you are skiing and it's overcast and you're worried you're like gonna die because you can't see anything. But what it does do is it creates this, like an optical illusion, and no photo has been able to capture really the sort of cream, peach pink and the light orange and then the sun coming through the trees, and all of that at once without, really missing out on all of the fine intricacies of color. I just don't think that it's possible.
My old editor at the Miami Herald used to say that Barbados had the best sunsets. He said he once saw something called the green flash, which is an atmospheric phenomenon in Barbados. And he said he's never seen it since then. I think Barbados is incredibly beautiful. And I'm sure I'll have more to say in my story, but what I really want to talk to you about, Aren, is diving. Because one of the things that you've wanted to learn while you're traveling with me is how to scuba dive. And I'm a scuba diving instructor. I'm not teaching status, so I wouldn't try to teach you, but I'm very comfortable in the water. You have really struggled. So tell us a little bit about your journey toward learning scuba diving, learning something new while you're traveling.
Yeah, well, the first time I got in the water was in Bonaire. I think if you've been following everything, you'd know that. And so since then, I've been trying to get in the water. I haven't gotten into the water since Bonaire. The last time I got in the water was in Grenada, where we did the underwater sculptures. And I didn't do scuba diving.
You did snuba.
I did snuba, so it technically wasn't scuba.
That's why you're breathing through a regulator and you're snorkeling.
And, I don't know, I get very nervous around the water, especially deep water. But, once I'm there, it's all actually really fine. And I think the problem that I have mainly is that everything gets so salty when you're working with the ocean. Like when I was doing snuba, it started filtering through salt water, and I started breathing sort of salt water and a mixture of gas, and that was not very fun. And then,
Well, you did something called Discover Scuba, which is a PADI course. PADI is the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, And so that allows you to go in the water even if you don't have a certification. You're going with a diving instructor.
Yeah.
You were with 2 diving instructors because I was with you too.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that you were really curious about going in the water, but also, first of all, you got cold.
Yeah.
But also, there was some discomfort with all of the gear that you had to have on because you have a BCD, a regulator, you've got weights on to get you down, you've got fins, and you're wearing a mask. So all those things, I can see you getting nervous right now just thinking about it. Aren, do you think you're going to get open water certified, or is this just not for you?
I don't think I have enough time, and I also don't think it's something that really necessarily I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because when I think about it, like the benefits of being able to dive, there are not as many. It's not just that it's not comfortable, but it's also that I get so cold, and also I have other things that I would prefer to do now. So just background information, I'm about to finish my degree in applied linguistics. And so after that, I would like to invest my time somewhere else, doing something that matters more to me. And I think, the Caribbean is a great place to learn how to dive. I just, unfortunately...
Well, our time here is limited too.
I don't think I would be able to get certified. I think it would be just a huge hassle to try to do that.
Yeah, it takes 3 days to get certified, and you have to go through, it's a process. You have to do exercises in the pool. You have to take some tests. You can do those online now. But yeah, still, and because we were talking about things that you learn on vacation, I think that one of the great takeaways for people listening is that you can try before you invest 3 days. You can do like a Discover Scuba, which I highly recommend. And you can go in and see if it's for you. And if you think that you want to become a diver, you can continue. And if not, you can try something else. And Scuba is a really good compromise because you can still breathe through a regulator and see a lot of stuff. And you don't have to even worry about, the dive gear. The difference, you went windsurfing and I did not go windsurfing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know exactly how you feel. I got up on that windsurf board and I thought, I don't know about this. I thought I'm going to fall. I had talked to a friend of mine who said, yeah, if you fall or you really wipe out, it'll be really bad. And I thought, no, I don't want to get roughed up by the waves and everything like that. So I watched you and took pictures of you.
Well, yeah, I think the thing with windsurfing, though, is it's way more tame than, kite surfing. I don't think I'd ever want to go kite surfing.
I see those kite surfers
That's
picking up air and really flying through the sky.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Did you see the YouTube video of the guy who went over the island in a kiteboard? Yeah. That's insane.
See, the thing with windsurfing is that I can actually control how fast or slow I can go. And so I don't have to wipe out. If you're afraid of wiping out, you just don't aim the board and then everything stops. And having that level of control, and then also, I'm not really scared of deep water so long as, there's something to hold on to or whatever. Having that security is way better than having a huge kite somewhere out there that might fall into the ocean and then just dragging me. And I've seen people, and the poor people doing that, and they're just getting dragged around by the wind. I would rather not do that.
In our last podcast, we asked, what's the spiciest food you've ever had in your travels? And boy, did we get some answers. Bernie says, the spiciest food I've ever eaten was when we were visiting my brother and his wife in Chiang Mai, Thailand. We have been there, and we've met with your brother, Bernie. But we didn't have the spicy food. He says, we went to a local restaurant, and she dared me to eat Thai spicy food, which is so much spicier than Thai food you get in the U.S. He says he had some Thai, which is some tum Thai, rather, which is a green papaya salad, and the spice level was off the charts. Hey, when we were in Thailand, did we have something that was off the charts?
Well, actually, I remember one time we were staying at the Four Seasons in not Chiang Mai, it was
in
Bangkok.
Yeah.
And I decided to order Grab. And this was just some random
You're
place.
The only person who does that. He orders Grab at the Four Seasons.
I don't care, and I don't regret it, because I ordered it Thai hot, half the things there you have to translate through Google anyway, because they don't actually translate it for you when you're doing Grab. And man, I remember just eating it and crying.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't remember that.
No, and I remember, like, I actually didn't fully digest it either because it was so spicy. Yeah,
okay. Well, in the interest of fairness, we should bring his brother Jonathan in here because he also left a comment. He says, "Hey guys, I'm loving your Caribbean stories." Thank you. My brother Bernie commented on his experience with genuine Thai chilies, which of course I'm very familiar with. We can't go anywhere near. But the spiciest chilies I've ever encountered are the infamous Scotch bonnet peppers from Jamaica. Strictly skull and crossbones for me. Wow, okay, we are not going to Jamaica on this trip, but I've never heard of that. Scotch bonnet peppers.
I'd never heard of that either.
Okay, well, John, thanks for sharing that. We'll have to stay away from those.
Carlos says, tacos árabes in Puebla, Mexico. The specialty of a small restaurant owned by a family from Lebanon. Their nephew was a college classmate at La Universidad de las Américas.
And then he puts in 3 hot peppers. I love those emojis.
Tacos árabes.
Oh,
I wonder,
spicy.
It's a taco, but it's made with like a special bread or I don't know. They're using harissa. Harissa's great. I always remember, to add a little bit of a kick to anything, you just get some harissa.
Get some harissa, yeah.
Because in France, they have so many Moroccan and Tunisian people that you can buy as much harissa as you want, and it goes good in everything, because French food, they don't add spices to it. So you have to take the harissa. As our good Moroccan friends, they knew what the French cuisine was missing.
Yeah. Well, that was when we were in Paris, and we were going through tubes of harissa at a rate of about...
It's like one every 3 days, because I was mixing it with hummus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Eugene tells an interesting story. He says, when I was 7, I was at a hamburger stand, and I saw a tray of jalapenos at the counter outside the order window. "What's that?" I asked. My father replied, "Jalapenos. Mexicans eat them with their food." My 10-year-old brother chimed in, "Try them. They are good, and they are free." So I did. I popped one in my mouth and started chewing, to almost instant regret and laughter from my brother and dad as I spit out the remains. He says, since then I've tried curries from around Southeast Asia, all manner of wasabi, oh boy, and hot sauce, and enjoy jalapenos pickled and fresh. Nothing has compared to that experience.
Wow.
You never forget your first time.
Never, never. All right, Ross says, Seoul, South Korea. We had just settled into our hotel in the city, and we went to an underground mall next door. There was an eat-in, take-out place that looked promising, so we went and ordered a soup with a side of rice. We were warned that it was spicy, but my interpretation of spicy is tasty, not hot. Their interpretation of spicy is all uppercase hot.
Hot.
Quite a surprise, but with multiple orders of white rice to temper the heat, we ate it all. Would do it again knowing that we would have to order more rice.
Wow, we're going to have to come back to this topic soon because we got so many comments. There's no way we can get through them, but you can read them all on the site, which accompanies last week's podcast. And they're great. They're really, now I have some really good information about where to eat and where not to eat. Because you and I like spicy food.
Yeah, and we like food. We're like any other guy.
Yeah,
like the next
food.
Guy.
Yeah, just like the next guy. Wow, I had so much fun doing the podcast with you, Aren. And where are we off to next week?
Antigua.
Antigua.
But people here call it Antigua.
Antigua.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you then. And toodles from Barbados.
Ciao.
Ciao.